These are the two note cards I'm using today, and I'm using one quote from wine.com. These are my guests. My spouse is filming. Hi everybody! Today I am going to teach you how to taste wine like an expert. One thing that you want to know about wine is that it's very subjective. So the only way that you're ever going to learn about wine tasting, how to compare it to foods in restaurants and how to order it is by tasting it. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I want you to have fun and I want you to educate yourself. And by doing that, we're going to follow these steps here. You're going to feel more confident when you're going to wineries, when you're attending wine tastings in the future, and you're going to learn how to impress your friends. So here we go. We're going to prepare our scene. What I have today is a Moscato and a Pinot Noir. This is white and this is red. You always want to separate the two for two reasons. You don't want to ruin your taste buds by combining the two. You always want to taste your whites first, and then you want to go to your reds. You also want to separate it by the sweet wines in one column, the dry wines in another. That way everything is separated for people to taste. Another important thing you always want to have at a wine tasting is your water, because you want to cleanse your palate. Now, when we're talking about scene, we're looking at everything we have out on the table here. We've got our wine, we've got our glass, we've got our samples to try, and we've got our water. Another important thing that you want to have is a note card. Now I've got an example right here of wine tasting notes. You're going to note the name of the wine that you're going to be trying. You're also going to note the vintage, the grape variety, which this one being Pinot Noir, that means it's a red grape. A Moscato is a white grape. Okay? So, now that we have fully prepared our scene, we're going to move on to what can influence your taste buds before we go any further. And what can influence your taste buds in a wine tasting is odors in the room. You want to be free from cigarette smoke or cigar smoke. You don't want to have seafood or any pungent odors around that can get in the way of tasting the wine. You also want to have a room with natural light, a window or a door. And then lastly, what you want to have is a clear white setting. You don't want to have anything else out in the background. You want it to be as natural as possible. So, we've prepared our scene. Now, we're going to look at the wine. I've poured a portion of the glass here, and what we're going to do is we're going to tilt the glass to the side, taking a little bit of it in. We want to find out the clarity of the wine, if it's dull, if it's clear. And the reason why we do this is because we're going to swirl to look at the intensity. That's when we find out the legs of the wine. Legs are very important because it indicates the alcohol content. It indicates what kind of flavor you're going to be tasting. So, if you notice here, the legs basically is the way the wine moves down the bottle. This is moving down slowly. So the slower it moves down, the more flavor and the more alcohol content. Okay, so now we're going to sniff the wine. You want to tilt your glass, really take in those flavors of the wine. You want to describe what you're smelling. If it's roses or if it's got citrus, describe it. After you've described it, what you want to do is write down on your paper if you like the wine or not by sniffing it, because when you sniff a wine you can tell if you're going to like tasting it or not. If you don't like the way it smells, you're not going to like the way it tastes. That's just the way your palate goes. Finally, you get to taste the wine. And the reason why we do this is because we want to evaluate as a reference. You're going to sip and swish before you swallow. Take it in. Notice if it's sweet or dry. If it's acidic, it can have a lot of bitterness in it, and you want to note the tannin. Tannin is when the grape stems and the barrel contribute to the wine. You can taste that in the wine. And I usually notice it in Merlots or Chiantis. You want to note how it finishes. Was it quick as a finish, or did it linger in your mouth? Lastly, you want to evaluate. Now here we've got a wine tasting scorecard from Better Tasting Wine, and this is where you evaluate your clarity, color, your aroma, your taste, and I do it in a basis of 1 to 5. 1 being bad, 5 being good. Okay, so what we've learned today is how to taste wine like an expert. We've prepared our scene. By taking notes, we're looking at the wine, we're noticing the legs to view the alcohol content and everything else. We've swirled, sniffed, and sipped the wine, and then we've evaluated it. I hope you utilize these skills today and have fun in future wine tastings.